I've been asked by Martin and Rachel and Conrad to share what was written by a close friend of Rhoda's, Irene Beckler, who's a member of College Mennonite here and has been a friend of Rhoda's for a long time. Martin, Rachel and Eldon, Conrad, grandchildren and great-grandchildren, and family members. Leroy and I regret we are not there with you today for this memorial service. We have been with you in thought, prayers, and in spirit as you are moving through the realities of the loss that you are experiencing. Our hearts are saddened, and we wish we could be there to hold you and to weep with you. We also feel a sense of joy and peace, for we know that Rhoda is relieved of every encumbrance life brings as we move through the years. She is at peace, and I do believe she is more alive today than she has ever been. May you be comforted by these wonderful memories of the years gone by and those you so recently enjoyed with her and all the family. May God's comforting presence sustain you and give you peace in the days ahead. You are together to celebrate the life of Rhoda and the God she served. And the two are inseparable as I think of Rhoda. When Jesus was asked, "Teacher, which commandment is in the law is the greatest?" He said, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself." Matthew 34:36-38. It seems to me Rhoda understood and lived that truth. She loved God and she loved people. Sometimes in our lives, things and beliefs become more important than God. God becomes less than first, and then people suffer. Sometimes we love things or beliefs and use people and attempt to use God. It is easy for us to forget the importance of keeping these priorities in order. Rhoda loved God and she loved people. I never felt things were overly important to her. I met Rhoda in 1984 when we moved to Florida. It was a couple of years later I got the first glimpse of her deep love for family. She was sharing her story to a group of wives of pastors and leadership people of Southeast Conference. I do not remember much that she said, but I do remember how in telling her story, she referred to the popular song by Harry Chapin, "Cats in the Cradle." You no doubt remember it. The message of that song is the importance of parents establishing and maintaining relationships with their children. Her children were adults, but it was a message for all of us. It opened my eyes to the depth and breadth of the soul of this somewhat conservative appearing, quiet woman. As the years went by, I observed her response to God's call in various kinds of ministry. There was change and growth in a number of ways. Her quiet demeanor, her commitment to confidentiality, and attention to detail led her to become the administrative assistant to the pastor of her church, and later to a similar position at Charis Center, a growing Christian counseling center located on the grounds of Bay Vista Mennonite Church. Rhoda was trusted and highly respected. Rhoda loved her God, and she loved all kinds of people. This past fall, when Rhoda was in rehab, we visited her on a number of occasions. She was frail, but always she had that radiant smile, and those beautiful dark eyes would light up as we talked together. One time when I was there, she showed me a card she had received from a young girl from Forks. It was evident that Rhoda had established a warm relationship there at Forks that included this child. The child had written, among other things, "I miss you, and I hope you will feel better soon." Often when we visited, she would be reading. Another Sunday evening I went to visit her. Martin was on assignment in Virginia. She was reading her Bible. She had expected to attend services there at the Gables, but no one had come to take her, and she was not sure why. There was no blaming. I just sensed disappointment. We talked about the scripture she was reading and of other things. I told Leroy afterwards that I was glad Martin was gone because Rhoda and I had a chance to talk, and she put a big smiley face there. I have another significant memory of Rhoda. It was our last visit with Martin and Rhoda before we left for California in December. A granddaughter, Cassie, came from school. Rhoda called her to come into the room where we were. There was a warm embrace, introduction to us, and then a question about her day. The mutual love and respect was obvious. I saw again God's love flowing. Rhoda had her priorities in order. In another memory of that visit is our conversation about a group of women that met together for years in Florida. Rhoda and I were a part of this group ranging in age from 19 to 91. When we first began, there were 9 of us from all walks of life. Each one had a story and was concerned and desired that the leadership gifts of women would be recognized and used in the church. Rachel will also remember those meetings. Rhoda said, "I enjoyed that group. I don't think I contributed much, but I learned a lot." Rhoda did contribute much, and God will continue to work through the lives of those of us she has touched. I conclude with these thoughts from Proverbs 31. The heart of her husband trusts in her. She does good for him and not harm all the days of her life. That was Rhoda, as I observed. She opens her hand to the poor and reaches out her hand to the needy. That was Rhoda. Strength and dignity are her clothing. That was Rhoda. She opens her mouth with wisdom, and the teaching of kindness is on her tongue. That was Rhoda, as I observed her. Her children rise up and call her blessed. Her husband too, and he praises her. A woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. I thank God for Rhoda, a dear sister and friend. Just a few brief words from my perspective. I want to tell you that Rhoda broke all of those negative stereotypes of mother-in-laws for me. I never felt judgment or a critical spirit toward me, only love. Rhoda was always gentle but firm. She was affirming when offering constructive criticism. She was encouraging and supportive of my ministry and my relationship with my family. Rhoda, in a quiet, confident way, showed us all that she knew who she was and felt very comfortable with who she was. Rhoda wasn't competitive, but she loved to play Scrabble and Quiddler and Boggle and any other word game she could find. I will also remember how she used to sit down at the keyboard when they were living in Florida and would just start playing hymns. And even for a while after she moved to Indiana, she continued to play hymns on that keyboard. I thank God for Mother Lehman, her life and example, her testimony of God's love and faithfulness, and her deepest desire to share it with others. Thanks be to God.